So now we have something special for you, a special peek of our home builders video that Arvi did for our members. He's also going to do some teaching around the cycle analysis as he looks at the XHB and one of the home builders, and I think you're going to find it incredibly interesting. Again, we're always teaching. We only want you to learn this stuff because your success is really what brings our success. Here's a little special peek of that home builders analysis.
Okay, so this is the XHB weekly cycle chart here. For the XHB, we have a dominant weekly cycle, which is then broken up into these minor thirds. And what we're saying here is that there is a dominant money flow pattern, which is then broken up into these minor money flow patterns. And I have drawn in how the dominant money flows have formed over time in this bolded line here, and how the minor money flows have formed over time in this lighter line here as well. And what you'll see over time is that these minor money flows as well as dominant money flow patterns have been really very, very clear. So where are we now? We are still in this intermediate term rising phase in the XHB. Our weekly momentum is firmly positive, as you can see here with this arrow being firmly pointed up. So that just is evidence to how strong XHB has been. One thing I do want to note here is that we are getting very far from our 34-week moving average. This is a 34-week simple moving average, this blue line here. And what this indicates is that we are due for some chop to really set in here in the XHB. So what we're looking at is, if we look at this minor cycle low, which is due relatively shortly here, we would look for just a very minor dip and then another retest of those highs and likely a new high, and then for this to roll back down into this key dominant cycle low timing. Now the dominant cycle low is due 6-7 to 7.5. So overall, a very positive pattern here in the XHB. We will look for this to then set up another move back to the upside, likely in the late summer of this year. If we shift over to the daily chart, we have our shorter term cycles here shown on this chart. And what's going on, if I zoom out, I just want to show you the consistency of these cycles. So what we do is we add in these purple ovals so you can see how the daily cycles have formed relative to the idealized timing, which means relative to the troughs of these cycles. And they have been really very consistent going back to that March low from last year. So let's go ahead and zoom back in. So what we're doing here is really rallying for most of this cycle here, which is a really bullish thing. And what we're looking for is just a very mild pullback, likely to test this rising 21 period simple moving average, followed by a retest and likely a new incremental high, as I mentioned on the weekly time frame. And then we would look for this to then roll over. So this is really what we would look for in that likely mid-May time period, is for a high to form in the XHB. The next short-term low is due 422 to 55. Now let's go ahead and look at the next one. We will look at KB Home. So this is KB Home. For KB Home, we have the dominant weekly cycle here, which is then broken up into these minor half cycles, as you can see here. And I just want to briefly walk through why we have these cycle brackets on this chart for those who are new to our work so that they can visualize it. So for KB, you can see back in August of last year, we got into this rising phase with our dominant cycle rising, as well as the minor cycle rising. This is a time period where you look for impulses on the upside, and you can see the beautiful impulse that we had here in KB Home. After that, we formed a bull flag. Why did we form a bull flag? Well, you can see that we had our dominant cycle still rising and early, and we got into a corrective period on this minor cycle. That is what forms the bull flag, and you then get a bull flag breakout when you get into the rising phase on that minor cycle. So that is super clear. And then after that, we got into a corrective period here where we had 2 cycles pushing down, with the dominant cycle pushing down as well as the minor cycle pushing down. If we look forward, you can see the rising phase here with 2 cycles pushing up and the beautiful rally that we had. Then we had a little bit of a flag form here into this minor cycle low, and then the rally off of that minor cycle low here, and then the pullback to form that next key dominant as well as minor cycle low here. So that really played out very clearly as well. And now if we look forward, we have 2 cycles pushing up with the dominant cycle pushing up as well as the minor cycle pushing up. You had this nice rally. We had this little bit of a bull flag that formed here into this minor cycle low, and then the rally off of that minor cycle low. And we are really still rising here on this dominant cycle. On the upside, we have a major 61.8 here at 50.26 and an intermediate 100 at 53.39. That's really the zone that we would look for it to hold here. We would not look for KB to get much further than this 50.26 level. Then we would look for this to roll back down on the downside into this next key intermediate term low timing, which is due 6.7 to 7.12. And then we would look for another impulse back on the upside here in the late summer of this year. If we shift over to the daily chart, you can see this bullish cycle that is forming here on the daily, where we're basically using up this whole cycle rallying. We would just get very likely a very modest pullback here, and then get another new swing high to likely form in KB in May of this year. The next key short-term low is also due right around the other home builders that we've looked at, which is 427 to 510.
All right, great job by Arvi. Arvi is just a fantastic technical analyst, and he also is very much in charge of a lot of our analysis, where he brings the trade ideas for our level 3 and 4 members. So just absolutely great work by Arvi, and you can see a lot more of his work if you do become a member. To get that full video, you need to be a level 2, 3, or 4 member. So please do sign up. Thanks, Arvi, for that really great work. You are invited to hear me speak Thursday, April 22nd at 3 p.m. Eastern Time at this great free event, Wealth365 Summit, in which there will be over 50 speakers in 6 days. My topic, momentum analysis, the key to trading success. I think you're going to find it incredibly valuable. Please use the link that's included in the description of this post. I hope to see you there.